we come to this practice, I think we come ultimately not having a good idea of why. Sometimes we walk through the door, maybe we're feeling stressed. Maybe we're feeling a little bit disconnected or lost. Maybe we feel like we can't find our way. But for one reason or another, we find our way onto the cushion, and then our training begins. And for all of us here in this lineage, training begins the same way. We get to go speak with Joshu and hear a little bit about his dog. So it's one of the most foundational koans that points to one of the most foundational teachings in Zen practice. The first case of Mumonkan. It's often called the barrier entry to Zen practice. It's a barrier not in the sense of something that blocks you, but it actually invites you to go beyond. Mu is where we start. Not because it's easy, but because it asks us to return to the essence of what it really means to walk freely in this life. The koan appears deceptively simple. A monk asks Joshu, does a dog have the Buddha nature? And Joshu replies, Mu. Just one word, no explanation, no elaboration, yet within this single word lies the entire teaching of the Buddha, and lays bare all of the secrets of our Zen practice. And so when students approach this case, they generally think, well, there's a piece of information that I'm missing, right? I'm confident that I could solve your puzzle if you would just tell me what mu means. Yeah. I often tell them, you don't need to know. Just sit with it. Over time, it'll begin to open to you. But many students are hesitant to even take the first step without some orientation. And so I'll offer them the response. It means nothing. Literally, it means nothing. But don't mistake it as negation. Mu points to something that's beyond concepts entirely. It's not about something to be understood intellectually. It's something we have to appreciate. It has to be born of our true nature. It's something that ultimately we have to experience directly and embody. So how do we embody mu? First, we have to think about how we arrive in this moment in our lives. Yeah? In a sense, we begin free. When we're born, we have a natural sense of wonder and curiosity. Of course, we have certain karmic conditions that arise, right? We have our bodies, our families, our circumstances. But initially, we don't see them as conceptual, and they don't harangue us or hold us in. We're free to explore. We're free to touch, to taste, to hear, to see things as they are. And then, then your life happens. Yeah? We take a step in one direction, may we fall, may we skin our knee. So we plant a sign there, right? Caution. There's pain here. Don't do that. Don't go there. And so then we carefully turn and go a different direction. May we fall in love. That always goes just to plan, right? Everything ends up really well there, right? So we end up with another sign planted firmly in the ground. Yeah? Caution, there's danger here. And over time, we strike out in different directions, and these signs begin to accumulate. And at some point, we begin to look around, and we see ourselves surrounded, fenced in by warnings, by judgments, by fears. What began as freedom becomes a narrow path carved out by the repetition of our thoughts and our habits. We find ourselves in a real way in this tenuous bubble, bounded by fear. And we can only roam a very short distance. And so, the path we roam on becomes very deep. At some point so deep it becomes hard to see beyond it. We forget the wide open landscape that once surrounded us, and instead we're left walking in the same worn trail, a trail of opinions, ideas, of judgments. And then we begin to wonder, where has the wonder gone? What else is there to see here? We wake up in the morning, we have a good idea of what we're going to expect to see or what that day is going to bring. And guess what? For the most part, it brings what we expect it's going to bring. And when it doesn't do that, we have a good explanation. Well, he just hadn't had his coffee yet, yeah? Yeah. We have some explanation as to why things don't go the way we think. How do we become so stuck? Becomes the question. Soren Kierkegaard once put it very poetically. He said, "I feel like a chess piece when it's said of it, this piece cannot be moved." There's this notion of some sort of rules that bind us. We feel like we're stuck. That's where many of us find ourselves when we begin practice, feeling trapped, unable to move, surrounded by caution signs. We forget that we place those caution signs ourselves. We consider them immutable truths of the universe. And this is where Mu comes in. The monk in the Koan asked Joshu, does a dog have the Buddha nature? It's a profound question, in a sense, one that touches on the heart of Buddhist teaching. The Buddha clearly said that all beings were possessed of Buddha nature. So why does Joshu respond with this enigmatic Mu? Because Mu isn't about affirming or denying. It's about breaking down the barriers, the conceptual idealism that we use that entraps ourselves, and it keeps us stuck. About clearing away all these signs. So how do we begin to work with Mu? Or we work with any koan? We have to start by taking everything we're holding on to. Our judgments, our fears, our doubts. We have to put those into Mu. Say, well, this is silly. Put that in Mu. I don't know where this is going to take me. Put that in Mu. What if this doesn't work? Put that in Mu too. Keep going. Up, down, good, bad. Every label you've got, every concept, tuck it into Mu. Yeah? And when you say, I don't know what's left, put that I in there too. At first, you might say, well, then we'll be left with nothing. Your conceptual idea of nothing. But I guess, to a certain extent, that's exactly the point. When all the caution signs blow over and all the signs and labels and judgment fall away, you do have, in a sense, some nothing. But something opens up then. We get wisdom, we get clarity. We get the ability to see things as they truly are. For the first time, we recover our ability to hear without naming, to see without filtering and labeling, to experience without grasping. Begin to appreciate the vastness, the boundlessness of what's present, without distortion, without interference. But this isn't a passive clarity. It's a dynamic clarity. It doesn't free us up to think some new ideology or to come up with some new way of defining what's around us. It frees us to respond. Frees us to respond to life as it is, not as we want it to be, or what we fear it might be. We see in this place suffering very clearly, and we step into it wholeheartedly, bravely, manifesting the compassion needed to set things right. Sometimes this response is playful, joyous. Sometimes it's mournful. But it's always genuine, it's always brave, and it's always unhindered. Mu is the gateway to this freedom. It's not something you can solve. It's not something you can figure out. It's something you have to really live with. You have to lean into. You really have to almost wrestle with your ideas, your judgments. You have to see them for what they are. When you think you have no judgments, you've just made a judgment. You have to look beyond that too. In a sense, it's surrender. Surrender to the path that meets right under your feet when you take a step. So as we begin this study, this period of practice, I encourage you to approach it with a sense of ardor and a sense of wonder. And I also appreciate if you would all take a moment to set aside your beliefs and your judgments and set those into mu. Because that's what it's going to take to really open to your life. When you let it all go, don't be afraid that you've lost something. Look at what you found. See what's actually there. That myopia that we all have, that close-in ability to see only our thoughts, our concepts, our ideas, our judgments begins to disappear, and then you see the life that appears before you. In this place, there's nothing to fear. And truly, no small I to fear it. In this place of mu, you find your life.